All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Angie Pettyjohn of the Pettyjohn team of Mortgage Alliance. I'm here with Alfonso Salemi of JAG Properties, rent-to-own specialist. I'm so extremely excited to have you here with us today, Alfonso. So many misconceptions about rent-to-owns and whether they're legal or not legal. And so I wanted to give you this opportunity so that we can educate our real estate agents, our mortgage brokers, real estate investors, and really generally anybody who, even the consumer, because sometimes they may be put in a position where we may suggest to go down this route. So I wanted to give you a quick second here just to give us a bit of your background as well as the history of JAG, because you want to make sure you're aligning yourself with the rent-to-own specialists. Go ahead, Alfonso.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Angie, for having me on this morning. I've been following you closely and watching most of the episodes that you've put out, and all I got to say is like, watch out, Ellen, because this is like the new hottest thing, and you're doing such a great job and helping so many people, giving them information. You know, when in these times, that's what you need. There's so much out there, but you're helping people out, and this is just one thing in the world that you're helping us. So thank you so much. And I know you and Victoria work really hard putting this together, and I'm super pumped to be here today and share some information about rent to own and what JAG does and how we got started. So yeah, like it was about, I guess it was 2014, we officially incorporated JAG Properties, but myself, Adam, and I had started investing in rent to own in 2012 and 13, learning about the strategy itself. And what really drew it to me is because, you know, real estate investing, oh, you have to make ROI and make your money back, and it's all investing in ones and zeros and, you know, pluses and minuses. But the rent to own aspect I really liked, because you're also helping people to kind of own, like, you know, learn about their finances. When I bought my first house, like my primary residence in 2009, I had no idea what I was doing. I went to go talk to a mortgage broker similar to you, filled out all the paperwork, gave them all the documents they asked for. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, thumbs up, that's great. And I'm like, okay. They're like, oh, don't worry, your credit score is like 800 and you qualify, don't worry. And I was like, oh, okay, 800. I didn't know if that was like out of 1,000, if it was like out of 10, like what that meant, what that whole credit score idea
Right.
meant. And, you know, I had gone to school and I thought I was, you know, pretty sharp guy. And I'm like, if I don't know this, you know, how many other people don't know this? And the bank just gave me, I think at the time it was like $300,000. So I'm like, it's pretty important. Maybe I should
Yep.
get to learn this, because maybe the bank will give me more money. I don't know, right? If I do this properly, if I get it to like
Right.
1,000, maybe it's more. So then that's when I really got introduced to the real estate investing world. And yeah, the rent to own strategy really spoke to me, because it was a way to still make a good return on your money and have a sound investment and help people. And the bonus is that like the repairs, the maintenance, all the horrible things you hear about tenants, right? It was almost kind of like non-existent in most rent owns, because the clients are taking care of that stuff. So that's what really spoke to me, and why my business partner and I kind of formalized it. When, you know, we kind of capped ourselves out. We started working with other investors that had the same type of mindset, that wanted to help people and get better returns. And yeah, and again, like working with professionals like yourself and other mortgage brokers, realtors, that we can help their clients, you know, buy property at the end of the day.
Yeah, and my perspective, it's key that the mortgage brokers also understand this type of option for their clients, because oftentimes if the bank declines our clients, we tell them, that's it, come back to us in 2 years. You know, you put them on a credit repair program, and in 2 years you're re-qualifying them again. So in this instance, they can buy their dream home, and we can partner with JAG and allow them to move into their dream home. So from start to finish, Alfonso, let's go through some terminology so that people understand, you know, the whole process.
Yep.
So why on earth would someone want to use this rent to own model? Like,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
why?
exactly. Yeah, exactly what you just said is that, you know, you're trying to help your clients. And if they can't get qualified for a mortgage today, they have to wait a year, 2 or 3. either save more money for their down payment, show more income, fix their credit score, and you're lost at that time with that client because you want to help that client, but you have other clients that are qualifying that you need to put through quicker. So we're almost like that stopgap where, like you said, they can move into that house today without having their credit where it needs to be, without having the deposit yet, or not having the right amount of income. We're building that bridge to that home ownership where they couldn't buy the house or own the house today on their own. And part of the thing that we do that I think is a little bit different than anybody else or any other rent owner is that it's really like that credit repair system that most realtors and most mortgage brokers don't have the time because they're servicing their immediate clients that are actually transacting and buying, right?
Yeah.
And you want to help those clients, you're reaching out to them, you're putting them in touch, but then they got to follow up and they got to do it themselves. There's only so much that the mortgage broker can do. So when we're incentivizing them and saying, hey, we can help you, we're going to get you to get to own this house, but you have to do this throughout the way, and kind of we're the proverbial bumpers on the bowling alley of saying, hey, no, make sure you pay your bills on time. Oh, no, you need to save up some money. Oh, wait, let's make sure that your credit score, it's clean up that other debt, all those types of things. And we're using the house or the home really as the vehicle to do that. Right. And that's why I think as it gets harder to qualify for properties, right, coming down the pipeline another couple of weeks, CMHC changing their rules and purchase prices continuing to escalate. I think there's going to be a huge rush to the market of people that want to come back and buy. So it's getting harder and harder for people to buy. And kind of in an instant gratification society, everybody wants everything now, or really like yesterday. Right. And with the rent to own, it's kind of a blended. It's like you're not really owning the home right now, but you're training so that you can. And then actually, when you know what you're going to buy the house for at the end, and we can get into that as well, but you know what you're preparing for. You know the target that you're aiming for versus, well, I'm going to do it in 2 years. I'll come back to you, Angie, in 2 years. But then prices have gone up 30, 40, 50,000 or more. And now I'm back to square one, or not quite square one, but still having to save up more, show more income, more credit, right? So it is that stopgap and that bridge right now.
So let's make it really clear to everyone who's listening here, Alfonso. This is what we say here anyway. We can help clients who have found themselves in a difficult situation, and a borrower, for example, may have just gone through death of a spouse, for example, and their credit rating has sunk because there have been things that haven't gone paid for. Perhaps a student loan. I mean, how many times I see student loan that the student had no idea and it hasn't paid it, so their credit score has plummeted. So we say we can fix things like that because we know their income makes sense. And it's not necessarily on the income side that clients don't qualify, because we're qualifying them based on today. They have a good job. They're good people. We do our due diligence as mortgage brokers, and as well, when we pass them on to JAG, that they are not those people who we've deemed as, I don't want to say irresponsible with their credit score and irresponsible with their money. They are fit and suited for this program because a life event or situation has happened, correct?
Yes, and that's a big one. We say it all the time is that bad things happen to good people all the time, right? Like you said, life occurrences, sickness, illnesses in the family, debt, divorces, things like that, where it causes the credit to take a real hit because that leveraging in, and those are really our two of the pillars of our underwriting when we work with our clients is gainful employment. Like, it's not just income. It doesn't matter. Like, income is a word of, you're receiving money, but it's gainful employment where you're going to work every day and earning that money. If it's on, there's a whole plethora of government funded incomes, right? Like, on like whatever it is, spousal support or ODSP, different things like that. We're looking for people that have income, that have a job, right? And then have saved some of their own money, whether it's in a retirement savings plan or just in a savings account that they have some skin in the game. We can't work with people that have no down payment. I always say low, not no down payment.
Right? Yeah.
So, right. And then that's it. And as things change, I think that's where we're going to see some of the banks and lenders even starting to head even more like proverbial skin in the game or down payment, right? To hedge their downsides, or to kind of eliminate some people that don't have those down payments, right? Even, I don't even know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you could have no down payment on rental properties, right? And
Right.
now they've tightened up, and little by little by little, right? And you look back 10 years ago, it looks like a different world. So now
For
there's just
sure.
those incremental changes over the years. So it has gotten harder and harder. And I think in a way, like being in this business, I think it's good that it's a little bit tough, because you just don't want to be giving out money and mortgages. Think about if you, like, probably a lot of investors watching this, and you work with a lot of your investor clients. And if you were the bank, you're lending out your own money, okay, hard-earned money, or
Yeah.
that, you have to have some criteria of how is it going to get paid back, right? So if
Yeah.
it's just like temporary income, or I'm just making a little bit here and there, that's not consistent, right? So those
Yeah.
are the clients that we're looking for, that have good jobs, that have the down payment, and yeah, maybe their credit taking a hit. The other one's a big clientele of ours are self-employed clients, right? We're
Right.
all the small business owners, right? And
Yep.
I always say, as a small business owner or like an entrepreneur, you get to choose what you make. And that means, well, if you wake up earlier, if you work harder, work weekends, you can make more. But the other part of that, you get to choose what you make, is that you get to claim what you make, right? And sometimes, well, I don't want to pay taxes, and taxes are so high. Well, the system that we're in
Yeah.
Canada, if you don't pay the taxes on your income, you don't get the credit for it. And then
Yeah.
you're not being able to get the mortgage for it, because
It's
there's,
one or the other.
that's
It's one of
right.
the, you pay down, you pay your income down to nothing, or, and you don't get a mortgage, or you pay a little bit of tax and you get yourself a mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge one. We're actually working with somebody right now who is quite successful, but he's his accountant just wrote everything down to like 4,000, I think, or something like. Well, what are you going to get for
Yeah.
4,000? So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah. You
talking
can't,
about
in most,
the borrower right now, and in rent to own language, that's the tenant buyer.
the tenant
Um,
buyer.
the
Yep. The
tenant
tenant
buyer.
buyer. Yep.
Yeah. Um, would you suggest then, if this is what we say anyway, but would you suggest too that if you're in a situation, you're a first time buyer or you're self-employed, at what point do you think would be a good time to meet with a mortgage broker who knows this type of thing, because that's key, and
Mhm.
connect to JAG?
Well, yeah, typically, yeah, always I recommend to anybody, first of all, go to a professional mortgage broker like yourself, the Pettyjohn team, where you're gonna try to get qualified for a mortgage first. And then if you can't, that's the benefit of our partnership, is that we're gonna talk to you. You're gonna get us up to speed on where that client is, on why they can't qualify, if it's income, down payment, credit score, or combination of those things,
Yeah.
right? And we're going to take a look at it. But basically, the minimum criteria to qualify for our program is $65,000 household income, and it's either 3% or $10,000 down payment, the greater of the two, right? So depending on where you're purchasing the home, but 3% of the purchase price or $10,000 down payment and $65,000 income. Now that's our minimum criteria. That's probably going to get you into around maybe a $300,000 home approximately, depending on the combination of those things. And then obviously more income, more down payment, we're looking at other homes. And the whole thing is what the purchase price you're going to qualify for at the end of the term. Like that's
Exactly.
the true part. Anybody can start a rent to own program and get into the rent to own program, but it's the successful exit that we're always trying to strive for, to make sure that it's realistic at
Yeah.
the end.
And Alfonso, that's, in my opinion, that's always been the downfall of people who are doing these, mom and pop kind of rent to own arrangements, is they're not ensuring that there's somebody on that file continually for the 3 years, 2 to 3 years, whatever the term is, to make sure that they're going to qualify at the end of it.
That's right.
And
Well,
that's when
yeah.
right. And that's when the tenant buyer is really getting themselves into huge trouble.
Well, that's exactly it. Think about if you owned, think of a completely different strategy. If you were owning a multifamily building and you never did maintenance and upkeep and checked on your clients and collected the rent for the people that are coming, that's going to be an unsuccessful project. Even though, oh, it's a multi-unit building, they make money, they're great, right? But if you don't do the things to manage whatever investment strategy that you're doing in the things to put in place, you're going to have an unsuccessful outcome. So that's what we've really taken on. When we first started, we'd work with, other people on your team that would help us with that. We weren't mortgage agents, we weren't credit specialists, but we knew the criteria that we had to start off with, and then the credit team and a mortgage broker would help us to get those clients along. Now we've kind of brought that in-house, where that we're checking on that, they're the primary contact, we're getting all that information all the way through, because that's the maintenance, not necessarily maintenance on the property, but on the people, right, on our tenant buyers, to make sure that we're leading the horses to the water. Yes, they have to drink, but we want to make that water as tasty as possible so that they're drinking it up and then qualifying, right?
Yeah. And you brought up a real big point here. You're not working in isolation. It's not Alfonso on his own. There's a team behind you, and that whole process from start to finish gets done. So if you're a mortgage broker who's interested in providing this for your clients, and you're on your own, like you don't have an underwriter like Victoria and myself who can help that credit repair process, Alfonso team does it from start to finish. And if we're too busy, just pass on the file over to Alfonso and his team.
That's right. Yeah. And we think of it as a partnership. So we're partnering with our clients, our tenant buyers, we're partnering with our joint venture partners and our investors, and as well as the professionals like yourself and other mortgage brokers and realtors, where we're helping these clients become successful. Because at the end of the day, the home ownership numbers in this country are continuing to drop, and it's getting harder and harder to qualify. And everybody's saying, oh, it's a housing crisis. But I really think it's a financial education problem or crisis, because I don't know, when I was going through school, and I paid attention most of the time, and I didn't have any class on credit repair, credit building, budgeting, financing. Like trigonometry was great, but
Functions, algebra.
Yeah, algebra and all that kind of E equals MC squared, all that kind of stuff. And that, like, that comes in real handy, like trigonometry season, right? I don't know, like it doesn't, like we have to really put our own finances in our own control. And with our program, and with people like yourself and Victoria that are helping your clients understand, like you said, you mentioned the business owner that, he's got down his income down nothing. You're like, hey, great, you're not paying taxes, but here are the downsides, right? Here are the negative impact. Now so you have as much information as you can. And that's why, what you're doing and and interviewing, some amazing people on your show and giving this information out there, just value, giving your time. That's the thing, is getting all the information out there and then make the decision yourself. You have to make some type of decision, but going out there and getting as much info as you can is so important from a bunch of credible sources, right?
Right. Fantastic. And we talked a lot about the tenant buyer and qualifying. And I would say for us, anybody who's thinking of buying, regardless of whether you're down this path or not, I always say to our clients in our first call, know your numbers. Right? Know your numbers, know your credit score, know what you're qualifying for, all of that. And that process is generally about a year to minimum 6 months before you're planning on making the purchase. Know this, because if there's flaws on there, a team like ours, a team like yours, we can pivot and help fix what it is. I just saw we have a lawyer that just jumped on, Noemi Ramirez. I work with her quite a bit. So nice. Alfonso, I hear this all the time. Okay. Legal.
Rent to own is illegal.
Yeah. Is it legal?
Oh, is it legal? Oh, yeah. Well, of course it is. I don't know. I think I swear I'm in my home office here. I'm not calling from jail or anything. So it definitely is legal. And maybe the misnomer, and this is when I first started into real estate investing, and a lot of realtors or mortgage brokers that I was going and trying to lead gen and find some clients. Well, we don't do those here. We don't do those here. Ultimately, like the way that our program is set up is that if you're a joint venture partner, if you're an investor, and with us, with Check Properties, even the rent owns that I bought, we're buying a property. You're buying it's a rental property. right? So it's a secondary home. You have to put down the proper deposits and show that you can claim and qualify for the mortgage. And then simultaneously, we're vetting clients and screening clients that want the house, that were, have chosen the house, that fit in there, and that are going to be able to qualify for in 3 years. So really, it's a 3-year rental with an agreement to buy, like almost like a first right of refusal, if you will, right, for our clients. So it's definitely legal. One of our business partners is our lawyer, in-house counsel, where, because we get that question quite a bit as well. And, like the agreements that we have in place are, a standard lease agreement that all Ontario residents and landlords have to have. And we have a purchase option contract that states very clearly how much every month the client is going to be credited towards their down payment at the end, how much deposit they've given to us at the beginning. And the key part is it's the predetermined sale price right at the beginning. Yes. So we're not saying, here, we're going to start a rent to own for you, and then whatever the house is worth, well, we'll just decide then. No, that doesn't work that way. That's like, I don't know, booking a vacation. I know some people do this and just go somewhere and decide where to stay, but we're going to know exactly that destination, what that target qualifying amount is, so that we know all the things in place. We know what the income level needs to be. We know what the down payment needs to be. We know where the credit score needs to be. So it's a clear target that they're going to own that property at the end. The ones that have unclear exits to say, oh yeah, at market value, or when you qualify. Well, it's not when you qualify, it's like when we qualify you, because we're helping them through the program as well too, to get them qualified and their own mortgage, right?
Yeah, so, and that's a key point. I mean, we're first of all working with a company like JAG, so that you're how many have you completed, Alfonso? 100 and
so. Well, I'm actually, I'll say it this way. Yeah. Well, no, we're over now. You see the 100 up in the corner. That was from last year. So we're actually 2 weeks ago, we actually sold back our 50th property. So that's 50 completed properties back to the tenant buyer that started our program, and now are successful homeowners. 50 of those, and we have another 105 or 106 in operation right now. So that's anywhere from the first month to 1 year, 2 years, and then eventually, most of the time they're 3-year programs. But yeah, and like you said, it's before, we're getting them ready before to qualify the whole time, right? So we've done that a bunch of times.
Yeah, absolutely key. Okay, so we've spoken about the tenant buyer, the qualifications, giving yourself enough time to go through that pre-approval, working with people like ourselves, who know this. We understand it. There's a contract in place. Numbers are in there. There's no fudging. There's no, at the very end, we're going to sell the property for X, and then the buyer ends up, paying dearly for that. So that side's done. Let's talk about the flip side. Why would somebody want to be an investor? So let's be clear. This investor is the person that holds the mortgage. And let's go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So since the time where myself and my business partner, Adam, basically capped out on the amount of mortgages that the banks would give us, we started working with joint venture partners and investors, where essentially, either themselves or the corporation that they create own the property, are on title, and qualify for the mortgage. And essentially, we facilitate the whole rent-to-own program, where we're finding the clients, screening the clients, approving the clients, really rehabbing the client to the point that they qualify. So really, it's, I always say it's a hands-on or hands-off approach, is whatever the investor wants. We're reporting to the client, once a quarter. And why anybody invests is really, it's ROI and cash flow. And those are the two reasons why I started investing in rent-to-own specifically. Was it is a little bit of a higher cash flow, because we are collecting a little bit of a higher rent each month, and it's deemed a credit, because we're going to credit it back to the client on the sale when they buy the house at the end. But we're actually achieving that cash flow throughout the program. And then the other part of it is the ROI is selling it back to the client. We're usually using a 4 or 5% appreciation in most markets. So on the sale back price as well too, there's a little bit of a lift and a good return on that, right? So it's really trying to create a win-win-win, and the investors really, it's to have that sense of, these clients are going to take care of that property, because they're going to own that property, right? So for the investors that that I was nervous about, the tenants and toilets and, midnight moves and all the terrible things that you hear, right? Which in reality, you hear the 10% or the 5% of the worst case scenarios. Most people are good, but this is even another level where these clients are motivated. They want to have some type of structure or foundation to set for their family now, right? And that's the other added benefit, is helping them. But really is that it's investing in a system that we've really, I don't want to say perfected, because nothing in this world is perfect, because we're always growing and adapting and changing, but really that we've really put it to the test. And almost seen a few different variables of why it wouldn't be successful, but we've had risk mitigation and great exit strategies.
Yeah.
So if the client isn't successful, what do we do? If the client isn't paying rent, if we have that property, at the end of the day, we own the asset. It's the property, it's a house in a good neighborhood, in a good area that's marketable. So the exit strategies are great. The ROI, excuse me, the ROI, the monthly cash flow, all the traditional reasons why you'd want. And then the cherry on top is helping a family, helping somebody get on the financial track where, where they can make an impact and help other people in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of years ago, I had referred a client. It was one of my feel-good moments. This was right when we joined the Windrose group and found out about JAG. I didn't even know this was an option prior to that. And we did everything upside down, try to find this woman a lender. And our colleague, Emil, says, well, why don't you speak to Alfonso here? And so the property wasn't very much. It was up in Sudbury. Woman had gone through a lot with her husband, and anyhow, I really just wanted to help her. It wasn't a huge paycheck. It's not about the paycheck. I wanted to emphasize that it was the feeling afterwards, empowering somebody with home ownership who thought that every single door was closed. Victoria and I were just so proud to be able to offer her that opportunity, and she was so grateful. It was what a wonderful feeling.
And it's so true. And I think it was Maya Angelou that said it, right? It's, people don't remember what you do, it's how you make them feel, right? And that sense of that home ownership, that safe, that home, and if you can help people do that, it's you're going to have a positive impact, right? And that's what we love doing, is helping clients and investors too. From that side, it's that bridge. And the other part of it as well too, with our professionals, right? Like you said, you guys turning every leaf, every corner, trying to find a solution. And really, you just have your hands up and going, okay, well, I've tried every door. And then when people, find us, they're like, oh, wow, what do you mean? How does this work? And that's the fun part, is it's another option, right? I don't ever say, hey, it's the first option or the only option. It's just another option. It has to fit with the lifestyle. It has to fit that you want to be an owner, you want to help people, and with investors, you want to have cash flow, right? And
right.
So all those things where if everybody can get a little bit of what they want, everybody wins. So
right. Alfonso, so on the investor side, he's the investor buyer, right? He's on title, or she. Lots of women who are in this now, which I'm so proud of. How do you qualify an investor? Like, how do you know this partnership's going to work?
Yeah,
Take us through
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we do our, we have every other week we do webinars. We have our website, so people get in touch with us as an option to invest. They get in touch with us and we say, okay, perfect. Let's find out what you're pre-qualified for, right? So any investor that has to qualify for a mortgage or has a down payment, so we like to pre-qualify them as well, because we don't want to get into a situation where a tenant buyer is going out searching for a house and then we put an offer in, and then in the 11th hour, that investor didn't get the mortgage or wasn't able to qualify. So we work with our investors, obviously with mortgage brokers as well too, that say, hey, I have investors that want to put their money to work and they want to help people. They want a little bit of a better return, more than their RSPs or mutual funds or that kind of stuff. And we look at it and say, okay, here, what are the brass facts here? Like, how much do you qualify for with your current income? And then obviously the income of the rent owner helps them qualify as well too, right? Because we have a rental agreement, someone that's already in place to rent the home. And then it's just about, the capital, if they're pulling it from RSPs or their own savings, depending on that, right? So it's the same way that if you're going to go and buy, I call it like a normal buy and hold on a single family home on steroids. at the end of the day, right? It's simple
Yeah.
qualifying for a mortgage and providing the capital and really just kind of entrusting us to follow through with the clients and reporting on to them. So yeah, we've had tons of investors that really want to be hands-on and come out and when we're going out to the properties and driving a few hours and we're there for like 10 minutes, talking to the client, everything's good. Yeah, everything's great. The house looks in good shape. And then they're like, wow, I just drove like all this time and everything looks good. We're like, yeah, that's why we'll do it for you if you don't want to. And again, the people that are hands off, just, we send reports. But yeah, the simple qualifying from, talking to, an amazing mortgage broker like you in Victoria, getting to understand what you guys what they qualify for, how much they want to invest, right? And then having, specific criteria saying, hey, I don't want to invest in that city or that type of property. We can work with that as well too, right? So for most of the time, we're in a single family home in a residential neighborhood that's close to transit or, amenities where people want to live or close to jobs, right? So some people want to invest in certain cities that have a certain amount of population, or certain things that they just want to stay away from because they've heard things about other cities. So we can work with those criteria as well based on what each investor, every rent to own project is really unique on its own, with every single investor being different, tenant buyer situation, and just the really how we need to correct the course of action for each client as well.
And the investor buyer, so to be clear, then she needs to carry that mortgage, so she has to have the ability to have that mortgage on their credit system. And
right.
Secondly, the down payment, they need to have a certain amount. And I want you to talk about how the ROI is calculated, because often investors think they're getting the ROI based on the mortgage amount. So if you want to clarify the ROI based on down payment.
So exactly. So the down payment in most cases on a normal rental, you're going to put your 20% down because it's a secondary property or an income property, plus your closing costs, right? So let's call it 23% that you would need of a purchase price. The added benefit of the rent to own is that with a tenant buyer providing an initial option consideration or deposit, they're providing sometimes 3%, 5%, 7% of that down payment. So it actually reduces the actual down payment amount that the investor needs, because with the deposit from the client, with the down payment from the investor, that's going to put together, that's going to be the 20% plus for the closing. So that number is actually reduced. In most cases, our investors are putting 14, 15, maybe 16% down instead of the 20, 22, 23% in most cases. So when you add the cash flow, that's how, like, obviously, if you put less down and you have the same return, it's a higher ROI. It's more money in your pocket, right? And then that's really how we calculate, is that the money that you're bringing in with the return of the monthly cash flow, the sale back at the end, the profit at the end, and obviously dividing those numbers, and that's how you're going to get your ROI. It's kind of blended from the monthly cash flow and the sale back at the end over the typically 36 months of the term.
Fab. We have a couple questions here. I just want to open up the chat.
Awesome.
One was on Facebook, and we might have answered it with the whole legal thing.
Okay.
But how safe for the buyer is the rent-to-own arrangement? That's a fair question.
Okay. Yeah.
So the tenant buyer, we're talking about tenant buyer.
They're entering into an agreement where they agree that whether it's their income, their down payment, or credit score, or like I said, a combination of those, that it's very clearly stated that you need to either claim more of your income if you're one of those self-employed. If it's down payment, then we know how much you have, we know how much you need to save. So it's agreeing to save that down payment. And then the credit score is really because our team is in contact with the client at least once a quarter. So every 3 months, there's a credit call to kind of a checkpoint to see where they are. It's committing to, hey, pay your bills on time. It's, do the right things in terms of when to buy, when not to buy on credit, how to use your credit, right? Paying your bills, getting those debts down to say, okay, maybe $300 or $500 a month, or every paycheck you're putting X amount aside to pay down those, like you mentioned, sometimes student debts or other loans that are creating that credit score. And it's safe because they're incentivized, and so are we, because we're not choosing the house. That's the other part we didn't even talk about. Once they're qualified, they go out and choose the home, right? Whatever area, direction, city, whatever they want to be in, that they're going to choose that. So we don't pick the house, right? We do a home inspection to make sure the house is safe and there's no issues and it's a good area, you know, all that kind of stuff. But they're incentivized because if they do everything that we outline for them and actually coach and help them to do, they're incentivized to buy the property. So it's as safe if they're not, I'll say it this way here, it's as safe as hiring a personal trainer, right? If you go to your personal trainer once a week or once every 2 weeks, but then in between those sessions, you don't do anything, you don't work out or you eat unhealthy, right? You can't, you know, after a year, you can't say, oh, I gained 30 pounds. Well, that's not your trainer's fault, right? That's the discipline. So we're providing all the tools, the knowledge, all the things that they need to do personalized for them so that they know exactly what check marks that they need to hit throughout the program. And they just have to go through it. Yes, there's rule changes, things that happen in the market that none of us can control, but we can adapt and we're able to, you know, maybe extend a program with them or adjust it a little bit to make sure that the payments are the right amount, because we can forecast and see what type of mortgage we're trying to place them with. So we're not just like a set it and forget it. We're there every step of the way. So it's very safe. We're like, you think about it like a big friendly, like if you're on a tightrope walking across to get a mortgage, we're the big orange net underneath there to say, hey, no, don't worry, like let's check into there. But if you're just going to continue to jump off and do your own thing, then yeah, it can be risky because now you're taking that into your own hands of, hey, like I know I need to save this much, I know I need to do, but I don't want to do it, and it's not magic. It's just hard work and determination and consistency, right? That are going to get you that mortgage. So we set it up in a safe way, and we want to help our clients. That's our underlying, you know, morals in our company is that we want to help people that want to help themselves. If people are looking for a hand out, we're not the company. If it's a hand up and a helping hand to say, hey, I don't know what to do, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to follow, then yes, those are that's the people that we want to help. So I hope that answers, you know, how safe that it is.
Yeah, that really did. We've have some people asking for contact info, and Victoria's included that. I just want to mention there's a cute little video that explains this from start to finish, which I highly recommend everybody go through. You do have to hear this process a couple of times to wrap your head around it. At least I did. I don't know if I'm just a slow learner.
No,
But
I did too.
it's an incredible opportunity for the right buyer. There's some other questions. We've got my lawyer here saying what a wonderful win-win situation for everyone. Let's talk about that for a bit, Alfonso. It really is a great win-win for everyone, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, yeah. And we're finding wins all the way out through, right? Because really the customer, the client, who it's all based on, the tenant buyer, that's who we're trying to help and become a homeowner. But the other wins as well too is with the investor, like I mentioned, a great ROI, a better return. Again, that feeling of helping somebody. I think, you know, even throughout all this, you know, this last few months of what's going on and, you know, pandemic and the world changing in front of our eyes, is sometimes we feel helpless. So when you're able to help somebody, it's impossible to feel helpless if you're helping somebody, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we like to do. And then the other bonus, another win that we find really beneficial is our professional partnerships with mortgage brokers, realtors, and other people that are referring clients, right? That, you know, like you said, didn't know that was an option, right? So when a realtor or a mortgage broker is like, oh, I can't help this client, they're going to be in my CRM or my, you know, I'm going to follow up with them for a year, 2, 3, 4, and nothing might ever happen because they're not going out and finding the things to change because it's not easily available, easy to their credit, like, or to their point, it's not an easy thing to go and, hey, I'm going to go improve my credit. Okay, well, you go and talk to a mortgage broker. They're going to say, well, we can't get you qualified for a mortgage. Well, here, you need to save up more and you need to fix your credit and you need to have, you know, and the good ones like yourself are going to give them tips and tricks and say, hey, you need to have certain levels and give them parameters, but they still got to go and do it themselves. We don't have the time, like most professionals don't have the time to help them along the way. So we're that gap where we're providing that education. And I can't even tell you how many times I've done, you know, seminars and presentations for realtors and mortgage brokers, and we're going through, and I always ask the question, what's a perfect credit score? What are the 5 factors of a credit score? And, you know, these are real estate professionals that were sitting in the room and they're going, character
Not
or
sure.
income, not sure. And that's what I'm really thinking it is really we're like a financial education and, you know, wellness company really, or education company disguised as a rent to own. And I always say, like, if we were out there advertising, hey, fix your credit and get your finances in order and, take it under your own control, people would be like, ooh, that sounds boring or hard, or I don't want to do that. But we're like,
Yeah.
hey, we'll buy you a house, right? If you do all this, right? Then yeah, that sounds interesting. So yeah, the wins are for everybody around, and helping people to get into their house, and even now helping other people that saying, hey, I want to buy this. I might convert it into a duplex once I own it. So then I'll put in tenants and I'll move out to another place, right? Again, getting on that property ladder,
Yeah.
it's always a good thing.
And Alfonso, it's also a win for my mortgage broker friends too here, that at the end of the process, that refinance, that client, JAG will contact the broker and say they're ready for a refinance, and give the client, because that's so key. I hear that all the time, because I've referred you to a couple of my friends who are brokers, and they're like, but what happens to my client?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
right?
and that's exactly it. So here's the example. So for the mortgage brokers listening in or watching this, yeah, if you refer the client, think of us as like another lender. You place the mortgage with ABC Bank or XYZ Bank. You guys get paid the commission for the hard work that you do. That lender pays you that commission. JAG works that same way. Think of us as another lender in your repertoire or in your suite of products, right? And we pay that referral fee. What we've also started doing in the last, I would say, 6 months to a year, that I'm really proud of is, so say that you referred a client even a year ago, we'll send you a note when we're doing our follow-ups and our normally scheduled inspections that we're doing anyway. We'll send you a note and say, hey, Angie, remember that client you referred to us 6 months ago, a year ago, a year and a half ago? They're doing great. House looks awesome. They're good on track. Maybe you want to get in touch with them. Give them a call, see how they're doing, because then that's another opportunity in another transaction, because we're hoping that they get the mortgage, right? We have
Yeah.
people that we can refer to. We're getting them ready to go, but our job is to coach them and train them to qualify them for the mortgage. That can they can walk into their bank at the end of the day. I don't recommend that to anybody, but they go that to that, back to that professional where they originally referred from, and say, hey, they're ready to go. Hey, why don't you work with Angie again? That's who introduced us. Now
Yeah.
that you're in a better position, now Angie can qualify you for the mortgage at the end as well too. So it's another transaction, and more business for everybody at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
And we're letting the specialists do what they do best, and that's to take care of that particular niche and client.
Yeah.
I see a couple other questions here. So question is, are you picky about the property? So I think you answered that, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, and this was, again, through experience. The first ones out of the gate, we're like, oh, anywhere and anything works. It's great. It's real estate. It's awesome. And then we, very quickly started fine tuning the types of properties. I remember it was, I think, one of the first 5 rent to owns that we did, and we were working with a contractor, and we walked through the house, and like it didn't have sinks and running water. And he's like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to flip it. We're like, but you can't just move into here, right? And
Yeah.
so, so we are in a way picky with the property, but picky in a sense of major systems have to be like in good order, right? We're talking about foundation, furnace, windows, roof, plumbing, electrical. Those types of things have to be in pretty good order, right? When we're talking about, if there's a shag rug or purple walls or,
Yeah.
old
Okay.
school cabinets, not a big deal because it's cosmetic stuff, right? We don't want, the client to move in, right? They've just given us a down payment or a deposit that they're using for the program. Now they're paying a little bit more, right? Types of each month just for their savings, right? So if something happens, right, or needs to be immediately replaced, like a furnace or something like that, where are they getting those funds? We don't want to get them up to their neck, right, with every last penny, where they can't, afford to go out for a dinner or something like that,
Right.
right? We want them to be financially sound. So we want it to be kind of move-in ready. Cosmetic stuff, everybody has different tastes. I'm definitely not an interior designer, so everybody can design and have their own tastes in their own property, but we want to make sure that the property is sound. And I think the follow-up was rural properties, I think was the actual
It's the
question
rural.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's a follow-up. So when rural is good, we have plenty of properties that are, well and septic, that are, just on the outskirts. And as purchase prices continue to rise, people are going further and further out, right? And the cool thing that's happened with this COVID and all that kind of stuff, location is still important. Obviously, you still want to be close to where you want to be close to and amenities and all that. But now you can be a little bit further out if you can work remotely or work from home capability, right?
Yeah.
So those rural areas, like we don't want to be in the middle of Timbuktu, nowhere, and like it takes 5 hours from anywhere to get there, and the closest like gas station is miles and miles away, and all that kind of stuff. But we have looked at outside of like major cities, or at least close to major cities, is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Like I always
I
give
think
the example in Hamilton, like Haldeman area is a good area, right? Or outside of Brantford, as an example, right?
I think the client that I had referred was out just like a couple hours outside of Sudbury, but we knew that there was a couple major banks that we could make sure that would qualify her at the end.
Well, that's a huge and
Yeah,
important thing as well too, right? Is that exit, because like I always joke around and say we don't do hobby farms or horse farms because there's like a half a lender that lends on those, right? Or
that's it. Today, maybe not tomorrow. Yeah,
exactly. So we want the properties that can get financed now, because first of all, we're working on the strength of the client, but as you well know, Angie, but probably better than I, like it's the strength of the property as well too,
yeah,
because the banks don't want to give mortgages on properties that worst case scenarios they're left with, right? And they have to liquidate and they don't have a market for it. Like there's only a few people that want horse farms out there or hobby farms, right? But so in terms of picking the property, yeah, those are the factors really of where they are in relativity to a city, to make sure that on the backside the financing and on the front end too, because if it's a weird rural property, even if I'm a AAA investor and have great credit, income, down payment, the lender might say no, you suck because
no,
of the
it's
property.
not bankable. Like the
Yeah,
property in the end has to be bankable. And that's
yeah,
one of the key underwriting factors that we do. We
yeah.
we have to make sure that that's why we get an appraisal, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah. Alfonso, this has been a lot of fun, and I can't believe we're at like 15 minutes left here.
I know. This is awesome. This is great seeing you. Great talking to you, catching up
Yeah,
and
I miss
sharing.
seeing you. I miss hugging you. You got the best hugs ever. So I wanted to talk to you about the Right Club because you're a co-founder
Yes.
there, and congratulations on the success of the Right Club. Oh my gosh! Like how many members are there now?
Wow. Well, I don't know. It always keeps growing. And you know what? We do the webinars every month. And I think on one of the last ones, we had over 300 people that were just attending online, which is so awesome. And, I think,
Crazy.
yeah. So I think, I don't know what our email list is up to now of all the different people that we touch base in the network. And again, the cool part about, getting virtual with a lot of things is now going across Canada. And that was always our goal. Even before, COVID hit, we wanted to be across the country. We want to be the best and biggest real estate investor networking group in the country, providing amazing resources, having the experts in all the respective fields, right? We have some amazing people that are just the amount of doors or properties and experiences that they've had
Yeah.
collectively together. Yeah, so much information and action takers. That's the biggest thing that I'm proud of. The Right Club Nation is that they're
Yeah.
action takers. There's one thing going to seminars or watching webinars or reading books, and it's great. You can fill your head up with knowledge and all that, and you'll get to know it 80, 90%. But if you don't do it, you'll never 100% know. You got to get in the game, make sure that, you take the right resources and learnings, but go and apply it. And that's what the Right Club is all about, is getting comfortable enough. Everybody is going to have different comfort levers of when they're going to go and pull the trigger and do the deal. And we want to provide all that information with amazing people. So yeah, everybody get onto the website, check it out, therightclub.com. We're in the midst of getting online to our online community and having people communicate through there, having forums, people talking about all different types of things, sharing our experiences. Because like you said, we were talking about earlier, it's not just you, Angie, that's doing it, right? You have Victoria, you have your support staff,
Yeah.
right? It's not just, within Jag Properties, it's not just me and my business partner. Now we have a, staff of up to 5 people now too, right? And it's collectively our experiences, everybody's seeing it a little bit differently, and taking the best of the best and applying those to your own business and
Yeah.
seeing where other people have made their mistakes. That's the other part too. So many honest and just humble people in the Right Club that are saying, oh, I'll never do that again. I lost $1,000,000 here, $100,000 there. And
Yeah.
people are so open to share, because if we can avoid that, if I can learn from something that you did that I don't have to do, that just gets me to my goal quicker or advances me faster and getting me to achieve my goals. Right. And that's what we want everybody's got their own trophy. everybody has their own definition of success on how they view their life, on how they want to operate their business. And we just want to help everybody kind of get a little bit closer to that goal in doing that. So if you haven't been on one of our live events, definitely check it out, therightclub.com. You guys, Angie and Victoria, we're always there every month when we're in Burlington, and we hope to get back there soon one day after all of this. But you guys are amazing supporters and have helped so many people. I know, just randomly talking to people, and they mention your guys' names and have helped them get into a property. And that's what it's about is, and I don't even know all the connections that have been made in all those rooms, but I just know that there's an amazing energy that, people that want to help each other and get to get to their goal. And that's, you're a perfect embodiment of that, of a Right Club or Right Club Nation member, that you're out there helping, doing these TV shows or these shows every week. Yeah, soon, right? That's right.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's why I absolutely love the Right Club is the sharing that goes on there. There's different strategies. Rent own is one strategy. There's the BRRRR, there's so many different strategies. And what I love about it is the sharing, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep.
And we have so many so many first timers out there just learning from the absolute best. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome what we've been able to assemble and have people together. And it's really the strength of the community and people open to share, because a lot of us, there's a term out there like solopreneurs, right? Where the business owners, and we all have similar struggles. Anybody that's ever invested in real estate knows, okay, you got to collect your documents, talk to your mortgage broker. You got to go out, search and hunt for the deal. Oh, wait, we have to legally talk to your lawyer. You have to get a home inspector. Oh, wait, how about the insurance, right? All the different facets that doesn't really matter what strategy you're implementing or you're trying to achieve. There's similar things that you have to do for every deal. And there's going to be struggles, right, on how to do this or how to find that. How do I get creative, right? And we're really outside the box thinkers. And as soon as you kind of say, hey, we can't do it, well, hey, I'll show you 3 people that have, right? And it's the cool part is, like you said, sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's definitely some ugly out there, right? And it's how do we learn from that, from other people's mistakes, right? Because we talk about, other people's money, other people's time, leveraging that, but other people's mistakes that they're willing to share and they've learned from, and now they're willing to share that. And I love talking about that. We've made a whole bunch of mistakes going through our business, and I bet we will continue to, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's how do we improve it? How do we get better? And how do we help more people? And that's what the Right Club
and it's just a great connection of people. Like I texted Dylan Suter the other day, and I'm like, what's the legal sweet guy's name? And he gives me his name, Ken, and I need to contact him today because I've got some questions. But it's, you can call these people at any time, and it's incredible advice that they have. And I follow everybody on Instagram and all their social media platforms. They just get so much incredible information. Alfonso, we're going to have to wrap up here. We might need to have you come back here for part 2. Let me see.
I would be honored to,
Oh, we do have one more question here.
Okay.
How are you finding purchasing a property in this current bidding war environment coming out of COVID? We obviously don't want to overpay. Is that up to the investor?
Yeah, so it's really, I don't know, the people that watch, whether it's Dragon's Den or Shark's Tank, and, there's Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, right? And he says, I'm a disciplined investor and I don't want to send any of my money soldiers out there to, I want them to all come back safe, right? And this is why, we take that similar approach where when it all really depends on the client. We're underwriting the client and looking on the strength of the client. So if we know that they're going to be qualified for an X amount, so say their budget is $500,000 and they're going out and searching, looking for the home, that's where we really have to think about the strategy with our realtor. Well, we know we have a 500 budget. Maybe we shouldn't be looking at the houses that are listed at right at $499.9, because that might go into a bidding war and we might have to go to $525 and we won't. We have a strict budget that this is the maximum purchase price. We give the maximum every single time. So in those cases, we'd say, hey, if we know that we're going into an area or a city that, has had, a hot market and there's been bidding, maybe we need to look at the homes that are priced a little bit lower at the 450 mark, So it gives us a little bit of a runway so that we can offer up to 500. And it's exactly what, I don't know who mentioned it, but we don't want to overpay. That's real estate. That's the business, right? We don't want to overpay. You make money in the buy, and it doesn't change in rent to own. We don't want to overpay just because we can. A house that's worth 400, we want to pay 500 just because to get it, right? We want to get the best terms, the best rates, the best price, because it helps our client, it helps our investor, right? And ultimately it's going to have the best return. So we're very disciplined in the case of, it does get into a bidding. We've done this long enough now where, the house marking was soft, and we say if the budget was 500, hey, we could go look at houses that were 550 to bid them down and say an offer 475. And then we saw it swing the other way of like, well, okay, we better go look at houses that are 425, 450 so that we can offer up to 500. And always goes up and down in every market, but we're very, very cognizant of, hey, this is the budget. We can't go more than that budget, because if we do, now we're setting up our client for failure, because we base their program on a $500,000 purchase price. Even if we go to 520, 530, 550, sure, it doesn't seem like a lot. Oh, I really want it. It's great. But you're not going to be able to afford it, and you're not going to be able to qualify for it, right? So in some cases, we have to protect our tenant buyers from themselves because they love it. And I want that house. Well, I don't care. We can pay more. Well, no, you can't, right? Like this is fundamentally what you're able to afford. So that's how we kind of, it's definitely better. The client always has to get qualified with us first, because then we know what the budget is. We're not going out and, buying a car and then test driving it, right? We want to make sure that we know exactly what the budget is, and we really stick to that, and are very, very disciplined when it comes to that.
I couldn't agree more. Like that, making sure that the whole pre-approval and all the numbers are done prior to. Don't go shopping. This is like anybody. Don't go shopping, fall in love with something, and then find out you're not in a position to make that purchase.
Well, I don't know if you've ever experienced it with your clients, Angie, but they're calling you and saying, hey, I have a client, or I have a deal. I have 3 more condition days on you. Can you get me qualified? Well, now you're calling me? Right?
Right.
You just woke up this morning to decide to purchase a house? No, you've probably been thinking about it. Get everybody involved as early as possible. It's better to be over prepared than kind of behind the 8 gun and making decisions when, you're in the 11th hour and you're getting pressed up against a deadline. So,
I think consumers are getting a lot better with their pre-approvals. At least that's my experience. But we still do come across those people who are like, oh, bought today, condition of finance up in 3 days, figure it out. So,
yes, absolutely.
Alfonso, thank you so much.
You,
I
Angie.
appreciate it. Jag Properties, rent to own specialists. This hour has just flown by. We're going to have you back again. Thanks so much. And again, you're part of the Right Club. Anybody, please follow the Right Club. When is the next meeting?
We have our next event. It's actually on June 24th.
June 24th.
So if you haven't gone on there, register, get onto the website, register for the event. It's a free online event. We're actually doing a coast-to-coast market update and some experts from all across the country. So thank you so much, Angie. It's my honor to be on here. Thank you for all the amazing content and information that you put out there, both you and Victoria, the Pettyjohn team, and the Windrose group. You guys are awesome. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Alfonso. Have an awesome day and a great weekend, okay?
All right.
All right. Bye now.
Arrivederci.
Ciao, ciao.